What's up, everybody? Jim here with Terry Schwartz, who's kind of changed her look a little bit this week.
We do have the same tattoo. We both have the Deathly Hallows tattoo.
Well, Eric Goldman sitting in for Terry. She is a little under the weather, so you're bringing that signature verve of yours.
I didn't know I had a signature verve.
You do.
All right.
You do. You got the energy. You got moxie, kid. Moxie.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
So there's not a lot of huge news this week.
Yeah.
But there are things that we like to just kick around, speculate on. Terry and I came up with a phrase last week, speculation, where you just, I think it's all self-explanatory, but pretty much sums up the internet. So let's just dive in. Let's start with talking about a little thing that's near and dear to your heart, Star Wars.
I've heard of it.
Yes.
Heard of that
I'm
franchise.
familiar with that.
Yeah.
Yes. It's Gwendolyn Christie said that Captain Phasma will indeed be back for episode 8. Somehow get out of that trash compactor. 1, how do you think she did? And 2, what do you want to see them do with her in episode 8?
I don't know if they really went through with the trash compactor thing. I mean, that's actually super sadistic if you think about it.
It really is.
Can you just see Finn and Han just laughing maniacally? So I don't know if they actually put her in a trash compactor. I don't think they did. I just think that Hux had to be super quick, running around, had to grab Kylo Ren, he had to grab Phasma.
Yeah.
He had an agenda, but he's like,
I need my 2 key people.
Right.
The rest of y'all can die.
Yeah, episode 8, guys, we gotta get out of here.
Sure, we have a giant base full of an entire army of people, but I need those 2.
I need those 2. And look, we assumed that she would be back. I think I agree that considering how much she was sort of hyped up in the actual movie, she's just kind of standing there. I was looking at the poster you put up on our wall in the office where she's aiming her gun. I'm like, she never actually uses that gun. As a fight scene. But I actually thought of it kind of akin to, I know I'm going to make a prequel analogy, but it's kind of like Mace Windu, who was in Phantom Menace, and it was a big deal. It's like Samuel Jackson's going to play a Jedi, and then he just sits there and talks. But in the next movie, he got to decapitate Jango Fett. He got to do some stuff. So I think that I'm saying that Phasma is the Mace Windu of the.
She might be. I mean, I think people wanted her to be Boba Fett, but also, let's face it, Boba Fett wasn't put to particularly great use in the movies.
His mystique. I agree. It's just I think his mystique grew because he looked awesome. I think they know with her. I think they will deliver. I think she's gonna. I bet you anything she does get a standout action scene in the next movie.
Do you think we'll see her without her helmet on? Did see Finn take off his helmet, and she was very much put that back on.
I don't know. There's a part of me that thinks it'd be kind of cool if you never did, right?
Yeah.
Because there are people, again, going back to the prequels, it's people are maybe, what if we had never learned anything else about Boba Fett? The coolness of Boba Fett was his mystique more than anything he did in the movies. It was just he looks awesome, man of mystery. Now we know everything about him. We know what he looks like without his helmet as a kid and as a grown-up. So I don't know. I think probably yes. To answer your question, probably we will eventually. But I'd kind of be cool if we never did.
Yeah.
She's just
maybe we just see it if they decapitate her and it rolls out. It's oh.
Yeah, and then winks the end of Freddy vs. Jason.
Well, now, do you think that we could see actually because there's going to be a whole universe of Star Wars movies until the day the Earth ends. Do you think we're going to see a Captain Phasma solo film, a spin-off film, perhaps?
Too early. Right now, I'd say no, but never say never. I mean, as we know, Star Wars will never end. There was that article I was mentioning a few weeks ago that said basically you will die not knowing the end of Star Wars, which is true. Sad but true.
A grim but true tale.
So, come 2028 or so, Phasma could get her own movie.
Okay.
Sure.
Now, before we move on to some, we have kind of a theme this week about villainesses, so we're going to try and keep to that theme. But episode 9, Colin Trevorrow did recently say that 1, he would like to shoot in IMAX, and 2, shoot IMAX sequence in space.
In space.
What do you think? Do you think he could actually pull that off?
I guess if anyone's going to do such a thing on a scripted film, a Star Wars, Lucasfilm, Disney movie would be the size project. At the end of the day, though, it's not like this movie doesn't have enough big things to deal with.
Yes.
Giant sequences. I mean, doesn't Nolan want to shoot in space? Hasn't he said that?
Yeah, I mean, I have a feeling that that's how, say, somebody like James Cameron's going to die. He will die on Mars filming a movie. Like he's
kinda
never
awesome.
he's never going to die a
Not
normal
because he's
death.
dying. You know
No,
what I'm saying?
like
I'm
he
saying
will
just-
be
yeah,
eaten
yeah.
by a giant, prehistoric animal under the sea, something.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. Episode 9 actually shooting in space, and to what end? Because it's cool to say you
If
did
it shoots
it.
in space, it will also shoot on film. They will not shoot in digital.
true.
So you got to lug all that stuff up into space.
But at the end of the day, it's like, okay, are they gonna like shoot some actors into space? You know?
Yeah, exactly, right?
To do it, or is it just gonna be like, oh, we shot space backgrounds and then we're gonna put some ships? So I don't know if it's
Why
really
do you
worth
need
it.
that for?
You don't need
Sounds cool, but
in the movies it looks like space.
we've
I think.
believed for almost 40
Yeah.
years now that they're really in space.
We're
You
set on
can't-
space.
Yeah, I think it's okay.
Don't endanger yourself for a movie. is what I'm
Exactly.
saying.
Now let's move on to a different villainess, Rita Repulsa from
Yes.
Power Rangers. We found out this week Elizabeth Banks will play her in Lionsgate's movie. Go,
This
go,
is
do it.
glorious.
Okay, why?
This is wonderful. I think her playing it is. It tells you a lot about the movie, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's going to get a lot of people on board who never would have seen that movie.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, we know what we're doing. We see, we can kind of embrace the humor and camp here. I don't know, how do you approach Power Rangers as like a big movie? They want to be mainstream. They don't want
Right.
this movie just to play to the Power Rangers fans, even though there's 20 plus years of them. So casting her it makes you feel confident that they know that they want this movie to have a legitimate sense of humor, get someone on board who's a very likable, funny presence who can
Right.
go for broke with it. And even thinking of the character, the fact that she was played by an Asian actress aside, she seems like it. Like you could see her playing that, going so big, and the maniacal laugh part of it. I was so happy. I saw this. I was at Disneyland the other day for work, but I saw someone tweet that out, and I was like, "That's amazing. That's great." I was already very curious about this movie, just like how are they going to do this? But that's the first. Because all the people playing the Rangers are unknown for the most part.
Yeah.
But her, it's just like, okay, yeah, this could be really fun.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of her chance to do her Maleficent, I guess,
Yeah.
because of the horns. But like, she also, she was Effie Gray, right?
Yeah.
Or not Gray, right? Effie Trinket or whatever.
I forget. Yeah, now I'm
Something
forgetting
like that.
it.
Effie from
Yes,
Hunger Games.
she was definitely
for the
Effie.
same studio for Lionsgate, and that was also a very broad
Oh,
character.
sure.
But there was some heart to her
Yes.
too. So and I from my reading up on Power Rangers yesterday and Rita Repulsa, she kind of becomes a good guy or something.
Power Rangers, if you try,
Becomes
I'm not
a
going to try to
white
explain to you the
witch or
mythology
something?
of. Let's just say it goes some places.
Okay.
It's an intricate mythology, Jim. You're not ready for.
I'm really not, people. This is like I'm
But-
trying to wrap my head. I'm like, she's what?
As someone who enjoys Power Rangers ironically,
How is
I
it-
think
how
that-
ironic. Why is it ironic for you?
Well, because I was already like too old to be like a kid who was just like loving it. I just thought, oh, this is so goofy. What is this Japanese footage mixed with like stilted acting and really cheap effects? But that were shot, in some park in America. It's just so bizarre to me and interesting. And I love that it's gone on for 20 plus years and has like a weird loose continuity that it constantly contradicts itself. And I still want to know, because I talked to Roberto Orsi like 2 years ago, but he's now left the project. But at the time he was saying like, yeah, we kind of know we have to kind of be true to that mythology. And I'm curious how they handle in this movie the burden of all those 20 plus years. Is it just a straight reboot, or is there some weird nod to like Star Trek, the alternate Earth, this has
Possibly.
all happened before?
Well,
That's what I
also wonder though, like the fact that this movie is supposed to be a cornerstone of a new franchise.
Yeah.
What if it doesn't work? Will they just go anyways and keep making them just because it's name value?
I mean, I guess if it makes enough money is your answer. I mean, and there's always those series. I was just saying when seeing ads for the third Divergent movie, it's like, which is a series that I
Another Lionsgate one.
Yeah, I haven't seen any of, and I don't really know particularly anyone who's that passionate about it. But it's like it exists, it's out there. I know it makes some money.
Yeah.
But Power Rangers, I mean, obviously it has stood the test of time. I mean, it is a multi-generational thing at this point, as funny as that is to say. So I think the movie has a good shot, but it is going to be tricky to kind of nail that right tone. That is,
If there was a non-Power Rangers movie that you could compare tonally what they should go for, what would you say?
I'm gonna say off the cuff of my off the top of my head, Guardians.
Yeah,
Like I almost feel like it should be something like that, like because you want it to be an action adventure movie, but you kind of want to constantly play with humor in it, but also like winking, knowing humor and address probably the cheap, weird roots of it. I think it may be a little meta, not too. The whole movie can't be that. It shouldn't be the Brady Bunch movie, but I think that there can be little nods that I think maybe they'll sneak in there.
Now, Rita Repulsa is from what I understand, sort of a sorceress, or
Yes.
she's,
She's been trapped in a space dumpster for 10,000 years. Yes.
Well, on a similar note, Hela from Marvel
Yes.
has been trapped in hell.
Oh my
in
God,
their
good
version of
transition.
hell. I know. I am the segue. So, Cate Blanchett. Is it Taika Waititi? Is that how he says his
I
name?
never
Or
know
the
his
director.
name, yeah.
He wouldn't confirm or deny that Cate Blanchett is playing Hela, but let's just act like she is, because I'm pretty sure, like,
Probably.
like you look at Enchantress. I don't know if they really want to go there, especially with Suicide Squad already having an Enchantress. But Hela brings this sort of stature that I could see Blanchett having fun with.
Yeah.
We had pitched her in a feature about why she would be great to play, Mistress Death to Thanos. Close enough. She's goddess of the underworld here, right? So
Queen of Hell.
what do you think though of if she's, first of all, of her and that character is the first true Marvel villainess, and two, sort of. There does seem to be some juggling going on here with Thor Ragnarok, because you have Loki, you have to settle all that Odin business.
Yeah.
You have Hulk, and now you have Hela,
Yeah.
and you have Thor, and you have Jane Foster.
Yeah.
So, just thoughts, please.
I think, assuming she's playing that, no matter what, it's great she's in the movie. She's an awesome actress. She'll bring so much to it. If she's playing Hela, that's great. It seems sort of perfect. I could see her just killing it.
Being,
Killing the role.
I'm gonna go there. Being hella good. and
Hella good.
bad.
Blanchett is hella good, raves Jim. So I think that'd be great. You're right. It sounds like a busy movie, but so do a lot of the upcoming Marvel movies. I mean, Civil War sounds insane how busy it is, and then whatever Infinity War is.
At least Ragnarok seems to have more of a sort of like, well, there's a logical reason why all these players. Sort of,
I think Marvel's a funny company because they play it really close to the vest, and they don't kind of openly admit their faults. Like they don't have very candid interviews about things where they went wrong, even if you kind of feel that they know it and are course correcting.
Yeah.
And so that being the case, I think they've heard at this point the your villains aren't great thing, and especially coming off Thor 2, which I didn't hate Thor 2. I actually enjoyed a lot of it, but Eccleston's so wasted. So wasted as Malekith.
And that was a cool character in the comics.
Yeah.
And
did nothing in that movie.
do you think Hela's going to have that? I mean, she's gotten an increasingly skimpy outfit recently in the comics. Like, what sort of outfit will she have?
It'll be more of an amalgam, and they're not going to want to cover up her face like all that much.
Yeah.
So,
but she'll probably have that sort of.
She'll come out wearing it at some point and then remove it, like Thor wore his helmet for 2 seconds.
I still want him to put that damn helmet back on.
One battle scene? Can we get one battle scene?
Come on, man. That's like his thing.
But you're right. Like Loki, of course, is their sort of big success story in movies. It seems like the Netflix shows now have given people a couple of great villains.
Right.
But in the movies, Loki is the villain they've created. Yet the fact is that he's also pretty not conflicted villain, but there's so much back and forth with him and Thor's brothers, and maybe that there's still love there. So I still think there is room to deal with the Loki Odin thing, because she'll be the villain of the movie.
In the comics, though, isn't she at one point they thought she was she was supposed to be Loki's daughter, and then they kind of went back from that. Now
I think so a little. But you know what? Also, I was thinking, just as I was talking about Loki. Actually, with Loki, they're probably going to end up doing in the long term exactly what's happened with Magneto in the X-Men movies, which is ever present, sometimes helping, sometimes betraying, and this big back and forth.
Oh, you're at it again.
Yeah,
and then Waititi also said that Thor has to be the best character, the most interesting character. So that's another thing right there. I feel like we've spent a lot of time with Thor. I don't think he's terribly interesting. I think he's fun for what he is. I think he's best when he's a fish out of water.
Or I don't know about fish out of water, but bouncing him off, and I'm not saying he doesn't have to be that, though that is fun too, but I just think bouncing him off like normal Joes, even if that normal Joe is Captain America, just like, that
His sort of
dichotomy.
pompous nature kind of, it's a nice foil.
Yeah, and that's why I think that's what Hulk will be there for,
Yeah.
to kind of give him that character.
There was also... Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, just saying someone not from Asgard, because otherwise it's either Jane Foster and they're in love, or it's just other Asgardians, so it's just Thor talking like Thor would to his fellow Asgardians.
Why is Jane Foster still in these things? Like, they're not doing anything with her.
Yeah. I don't think they're going towards the she becomes the female Thor thing.
Well, also too, like Marvel hasn't really done a great job with like the female kind of quote unquote love interest in their movies. I mean, I feel like Peggy Carter is the exception of the rule. Maybe it's because they never actually did anything. Like they never. I think they kissed. That was.
I mean, I think they've done pretty well by Pepper. Again, as someone who's a big fan of Iron Man 3, I like the stuff they did there. Even though you kind of always want them to go that next level, it's like they teased in Iron Man 3 her putting on the armor and saving the day at the end. But will they actually have her become Rescue and like get her own suit? I don't think they're doing that. Yeah,
nope, not
and it's the same with Jane Foster and Thor. It's like they don't quite get there. And you're right, Peggy is the exception.
Yeah,
really been able to have her own adventures.
I mean, the fact that Gamora too was Gamora.
I always say Gamora, but
Gamora, yeah. The fact that she can be a love interest / teammate anyway. So it's like you're already kind of dealing with her, so I think that's probably an easier sort of transition there. But yeah, I can't say that they've done a terribly great job at like. It'll be curious to see what they do with Agent 13 in Civil War.
I mean, at least Gamora was not. I mean, even though he was flirting with her, I mean, she was just a member of the team, a capable member of the team. She wasn't like the girlfriend, She was like this assassin. And I'm very excited for Ant-Man and the Wasp. Like I think that's gonna. Not to mention Captain Marvel, which it seems very far away right now, but I'm sure time will move quickly and it'll be here.
Now we want to hear your guys' thoughts about what do you think about Thor 3? Is it a little crowded? What do you want to see them do with Hela? Let us know in your thoughts in the comments. Let's move on to a different Marvel property, Fox Marvel property. Talk about, very briefly, X-Men. Bryan Singer announced this week that his next movie will not be a sequel to X-Men Apocalypse. It's going to be 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, also for 20th Century Fox. I love the old Disney one with James Mason and Kirk Douglas and Peter Lorre. I'm sorry.
Wow, I didn't know
you can't say Peter.
Mean impression. Peter Lorre.
Without, Peter Lorre, if you guys don't know, was basically like he was a cross between like Andy Serkis, Christoph Waltz, and Gollum. Well, I guess Andy Serkis is Gollum, so there we go. But what do you think that means then for the X-Men franchise? I mean, we have Gambit coming up. Deadpool's poised to be a hit.
Yeah.
So they're probably going to they've talked about doing Deadpool and Cable as a sequel. So are we going to see the X-Men movies kind of go on hold for a while then?
Only in that, because I think Singer even said, maybe in the past week or two, or has indicated that he doesn't see Apocalypse as the last one he's directing. But look, he made two of them back-to-back, very close back-to-back.
Yeah.
They came out Apocalypse coming out 2 years after Days of Future Past. There's never been an X-Men movie that quick. And I do think it's because they're now launching all these other sort of spin-off movies. And for the first time, and knock on wood, things are looking promising for them.
Yeah.
So I think it's more likely like he's going to move into 20,000 Leagues this fall. I think the idea is they'll probably have another X-Men movie out 3 years from now. X-Men branded. In the interim, we'll have Wolverine 3, a Deadpool sequel if Deadpool goes well. A lot of stuff.
Do you think Cable then? Do you think if they do Deadpool and Cable, is that basically the launching pad for an X-Force movie? I mean, they were talking about X-Force movie, and we're going to actually get to. Well, we can just what the hell? Let's throw it in now.
Yeah.
Like New Mutants, Josh Boone is the guy who did Fault in Our Stars. Big X-Men fan. He's going to do New Mutants. He's supposed to do The Stand. That's on hold.
Yeah. It's a big year for all the stuff they're doing with X-Men. Don't forget, it looks pretty much like Legion is coming to TV this year.
You want to tell the folks who's playing Legion?
Yes, except that for a second I just completely blanking on his name.
Dan Stevens.
Dan Stevens. Thank you.
Or as the UK get it going, #Fist Dan Stevens, because they wanted him to play Iron Fist. They had a whole campaign.
Right.
Now he's not going to, no more fisting of Dan Stevens.
Which is very funny because, besides what you're saying, IGN writer Matt Fowler really wanted Dan Stevens to play Daredevil initially before Charlie Cox was cast his role. So Legion, is coming to FX. It hasn't been officially picked up the series, but they've pretty much said it's almost definitely happening. And Singer's one of the producers on that, along with Ken Berg and Lauren Schiller.
Now, for the folks who might not be following the TV side of things as closely as the movies, how tied will these be? Because Legion is Professor X's kid.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah, because
it's almost like we work together.
Having wrapped up the TCA press tour, the Television Critics Association press tour a couple weeks back, I asked the head of FX that very question, and he said they are not in the same universe. Which I booed, and then I understand why.
Then you withdrew the boo?
I withdrew the boo only because I understand as much as all the knocks the X-Men franchise, which I like, but there's rightful knocks about how the continuity is all over the map and what a mess it's been. And I think the idea coming out of Days of Future Past is to stop that and to fix it going forward. That being the case, then you've got the question of the TV shows and should they connect? And you've got DC and Marvel have treated it very differently, right? Where DC's doing, no, it's a different universe, but Marvel's like, it's all connected. It's all connected is great in theory, but it gives you a lot of restrictions. And, S.H.I.E.L.D. always has to deal with the fact that, no, they can't have Iron Man just show up. And no, they can't say this happened because it would change everything in the Marvel movies.
And the movies still can't acknowledge that Coulson is alive.
Yeah, right, exactly. And so it's all weird. So I can understand with Legion, especially because you've got Noah Hawley, the creator of Fargo, who's so acclaimed, running it. The show is about Professor X's son. Professor X will probably show up at some point. For them to say, okay, yeah, but we have to make sure we work that out. Is McAvoy going to be available? Is Stewart? When's that going to happen? What will it affect?
Could they bring back Patrick Stewart, though? I mean, that would be kind of fun, have him kind of show up.
Maybe, but I think they won't. I think the idea is, because it was the head of
new bald man.
The head of FX was like, yeah, it's a different universe. In the X-Men movies, everyone kind of knows that mutants exist. In this show, it's really just some people in the government.
Yeah.
And as much as I kind of was like, it's too bad, I get it too. It just gives them the freedom it gives them as a TV show to not have to worry about everything happening in the movies.
They also have Hellfire, right? Which is that going to be the Hellfire Club then, basically?
Yeah, that one's a lot more ethereal, and we don't know. I mean, that one's, whereas Legion is about, we just got the casting of Dan Stevens, Aubrey Plaza, and Gene Smart all joined that pilot too. It's filming soon. It should probably be on the air by this fall if they pick it up the series, which it sounds like they will. Hellfire
Do you think they'll show it at Comic-Con?
Yes. At least it'll be at Comic-Con. I don't know if they'll show the whole pilot.
Line up now.
But I think they probably will. But yeah, Hellfire is way more in the early development stages. No pilot ordered yet. And the people who were all writing it all just left to do the 24 spinoff, 24 Legacy. They were all 24 writers to begin with.
Yeah,
so
that
Fox
sounded like a good time.
moved. I mean, it's all in Fox, and Fox was like, oh, we're doing this 24 thing, get back to that. But they said that, yeah, Hellfire is not going to probably happen in this. It's definitely not happening in the current pilot season. So that sounds a ways off if it happens. Whereas like Legion, I think we'll see Legion in a few months.
All right, well let's move on to some starting dates here. Wolverine 3 is going to start filming in April in New Orleans and New Mexico. Hugh Jackman's last hurrah as Logan. Avatar 2. It's going to start filming.
They say they're making
in April in New Zealand.
Yeah.
Sure. Singer made 2 X-Men movies in between the time of this one and that. I was joking last week, like the Allies won World War II faster than Cameron has been able to make an Avatar sequel.
I know, but I mean, and everything we snark about. I mean, I think this will happen. Unlike these, this will never happen. It is funny how it keeps getting delayed. But Cameron is Cameron, man. It was such a huge. The fact that he didn't do a scripted movie in between Titanic and Avatar is pretty insane. Anyway, which was like 12 years or something like that.
It was a long time.
Yeah. So it's gonna happen. And even as cynical as I am about like, it doesn't seem like there's any fan base there. Like you don't feel like Avatar had any cultural, like pop culture footprint anymore, which I do believe. Who knows? It's Cameron. The guy has made the 2 biggest movies ever, so don't rule him out.
You're talking about pop culture imprint and sequels and stuff. Alien Covenant is going to start filming this year, I believe in April in Australia. but no Rampage
Yeah.
this time.
It's
And
interesting.
it's going to take place like 10 years after Prometheus, so they're really trying to distance themselves.
Yeah.
From Prometheus. Although Fassbender's David will be back.
Right. So it's basically they're taking like, the one thing they feel like everyone loves from that movie. I'm also a Prometheus fan, by the way. I'm just going to defy the internet left and right here. But I am a fan, but also saw some issues with it. It definitely feels like, they are just, it's a sequel, and yet they want to so much. The second they retitled it and put Alien in front of it, you're like, okay, we are.
We've got ourselves a
turning
requel, a reboot sequel.
Yeah, even though it's so funny because it's Ridley Scott the whole time, and it was already his weird prequel spin-off of his own series, but now he's turning it back in. So yeah, it's
this
a
is
strange
how
situation.
stuff gets screwy continuity-wise, like X-Men.
Yeah.
Transformers 5 starts filming in May, so I know you're very excited about that.
Very, very excited.
What
I love
what
those
would you
movies.
like to see in
I don't love those
Transformers 5?
movies.
Well, how could they turn the ship around for you?
I'd like to see a
Narrative,
believable character.
human dimension.
I'd like to see the robots actually look like discernible beings and not weird.
Do you want to
clunky
joke about
shit.
the Optimus Prime stuff that we joke about in the
Oh,
office?
just because we were laughing about the end of Transformers 4, which I reminded myself is like Optimus Prime shoots and kills Kelsey Grammer. Granted, he's a bad guy who's about to kill Marky Mark, and but it's just the fact that like they've taken Optimus Prime, who is such like the paradigm of like the paradigm of like a warrior for peace. Like I
He's
will
a knight.
Yeah, I will fight when I have to, but I'm about peace and equality and freedom. And in these movies, he's just freaking tearing his enemies apart. He is shooting
ripping
point
out
blank.
hearts, taking off heads.
He is the Punisher. He is
Yeah.
Optimus Punisher. So the end of Transformers 4, which was, the end of Transformers 4 was Optimus Prime shoots and kills Kelsey Grammer and flies off into space. He's like, see ya.
I'm out of here. Screw all y'all humans.
But yeah, they're doing a fifth one. So
Well, if somebody had told me years ago that I would end up liking a series called Fast and Furious more than I would a Transformers movie series. Fast and Furious, Vin Diesel and Universal have announced that their Fast 8 is coming up. It's going to be set in New York and Iceland. But here's the tagline that was put out there, because it goes up through Fast 10. 2 decades, 10 films, 1 saga. Fast 9 coming out April 19th, 2019. Fast 10 coming out April 2nd, 2021. So yes, that'd be 20 years after the first one came out. It's insane.
Insane. Absolutely insane. I mean, it's funny. It's not it's not the only franchise to go that long. Obviously, Star Wars and Mission Impossible started in '96.
James Bond.
40, but
50
James Bond, of course, has the much more different sort of constant reinventions. Star Wars has these long periods of being dormant. Won't happen anymore, but it had the two. And Mission Impossible, there's been these giant gaps between sequels.
Yeah.
So the fact that the Fast and Furious movie is just
the first Mission Impossible was what, 96?
Yep. Yeah.
So, oh my God, yeah. So it's amazing. Yeah, we've got 20 years of Mission Impossible.
we do. But that's crazy that they would announce release dates. Now, the insinuation here, the assumption here is that he's saying maybe, because this was Vin Diesel Instagram this, that 10 is the end. We're thinking.
Yeah.
We're thinking that's gonna be.
It's a good way to end.
Yeah.
But what do you think? I mean, there's been some rumors, but could we be looking at a spin-off series
Absolutely.
like Hobbs, the Dwayne Johnson character?
That's one. And I joked and didn't joke on Twitter that like, when are they going to magically age up Brian's son, Paul Walker's character's son, who was like a baby, a toddler last we saw him? When will he show up as an 18-year-old in like 9 or 10?
Yeah.
I know you learned a few moves from my dad,
like walking and speaking.
And jumping a car into outer space. So I just think that like a spinoff, there's no, this has been insanely, this was we're coming off a really big year for Universal, where it's like Minions and Jurassic World and Furious 7 were all billion-dollar hits. Straight out of Compton. But just the fact that those three.
50 Shades of Grey.
Yeah. They had $3 billion hits, but for a long time they've been they were having real problems in the franchise area. Fast and Furious has been the ongoing thing.
They're bringing back Bourne.
Yeah. So I just think, they'll, even though that 10 might be the end of the Fast and the Furious, still.
There'll be something there. That can tether it.
That actually could probably become a TV show. Like, and I think of it, there's something. Again, it's like if Vin Diesel can make a Riddick TV show.
Oh yeah, what is going on with that anyway?
I don't know. He said they're doing like it's like about the bounty hunters of the mercenaries.
Is he going to pop up on there, kind of like Cooper?
He didn't say, but I would guess so. Like because Riddick only exists as this franchise at all because of him. Like his and to his credit, even though I haven't loved anything since Pitch Black, to his enthusiastic credit, it's like, they keep making these movies every once in a while, and now apparently they're going to do a TV show. So I bet he would show up on it. I think
he's nothing if not a self-promoter and a great cheerleader for his project.
Yeah, his brand,
Now, we did mention a moment ago about Dwayne Johnson, and possibly, we'd love to see a Hobbs spinoff, but in the meantime, he's doing a movie version of the old video game Rampage.
Yes, he is.
And Carlton Cuse and Ryan Condal are rewriting it. Now, tell folks you're our TV's guru. If they're not familiar, maybe they know those names.
Yeah, Cuse is the one whose name you probably recognize because he's not the co-creator, technically. J.J. Abrams, Damon Lindelof created Lost, but Lindelof and Cuse ran Lost because obviously J. Abrams just launched it and went off to make Mission Impossible 3.
Yep.
So Carlton Cuse's main thing he's known for is the co-showrunner of Lost for all 6 years. But his career goes way back before then to Briscoe County with Bruce Campbell, Nash Bridges, where him and Lindelof first worked together.
And Wait, Lindelof worked on Nash Bridges?
Oh yeah,
I didn't know that.
Sean Ryan did too. A bunch of people worked on
Wow.
Nash Bridges. Yeah, it's pretty
Damn.
It's
Look
funny.
At Don Johnson bringing people together.
Well,
Don and
all right,
Cheech.
I'm going to go into a quick anecdote here because you'll like this.
Ooh, okay.
Damon Lindelof moderated a Chuck panel I was once at PaleyFest, and he goes, "Now it's interesting. You called your show Chuck." Just the main character's name. Because I worked on a show once, and I won't reveal the title of the show, but it rhymed with Crash Cridges. And the creator of that show told me, never name your show after the main character, because you could never fire the main actor, and he can be the biggest asshole the whole time.
Don Johnson having a reputation for being difficult.
Yeah. And that was, again, Lindelof said that on a panel that wasn't like a off-the-record
There
thing.
are some great old Miami Vice anecdotes, like when he was basically at his full Shatner kind of ego, like Shatner on the old Trek. That's always kind of a heartbreaker when, like, I loved Sonny Crockett.
But it's not a heartbeat like his hit song.
I had that album, dude.
Oh, no, you didn't.
I did indeed.
But back to Carlton Cuse.
Cuse.
He's actually very prolific these days. He's got a bunch of shows on the air. He's one of the producers of The Strain, Bates Motel, and Colony with Ryan Condal. And Colony just got renewed today as we're taping this.
Where do they have the time to work on this thing, and why would they want to do this?
How Cuse has the time. I'm actually moderating a panel with Cuse this weekend in Atlanta with Bates Motel. But Cuse is one of those guys like Berlanti where you're like, how are you awake?
Do you not sleep?
Yeah, what's going on?
He also, he worked on the script for San Andreas.
Yeah.
So, who doesn't want to work with The Rock?
Everyone wants to work with The Rock. Matt Fowler tells me, I've never interviewed The Rock.
What?
One day, help me make this happen.
See? I swear, like, you probably just missed him. He's around all the time doing things.
One day I hope to interview him, but Fowler has told me he was interviewing him twice, that he's just, that charisma he has is you feel a person, and he makes you feel like you are his friend, and like he is engaged, and if he's faking it, it's still power to him because he's got that power.
Will Smith kind of has that too, but The Rock is just great. Like, he's just awesome. Let's talk about this weekend is the Super Bowl, which you could give a rat's ass about. You are not a sports guy.
That's the one with the football?
That's right.
Okay.
The old pigskin, the old gridiron. The
best part about them putting all the commercials online early is I don't have to watch the Super Bowl anymore. Because I used to just watch it for the commercials, but I used to organize game parties for people who don't care about the Super Bowl, and we'd play games, and then we'd be like, oh, commercial, and we'd all stop, and we'd like watch the commercials, and then we go back. But now we don't have to do that.
Look, I'm not a huge sports guy, but I feel like sports, and football, I think, is a good example of this. Sports are drama. You have your heroes, you have your villains, you have the what's going to happen next. I mean, that's the essence of drama. It's like there's the reversals of fortune and all sorts of stuff. So I think once you look at it as a narrative, then it's a little more fun.
I get that, and I tell people who can't believe I've watched.
Dress up in their costumes.
I watched every single episode of Survivor. and I said to someone, I think it's my sports, because people are like, but isn't it the same every year? I go, well, no, it's like that's what you would say about football, but it's like, how do they play the game, and what do they think of within the rules? And so I was like, yeah, Survivor is my sports.
Okay. Well, all right. This weekend they're going to have movie commercials. We don't know which ones specifically for a lot of them.
Yeah.
We do know Eddie the Eagle will have a spot there.
We do know that.
We have it on the site. I've actually seen the movie. It's really charming. I liked it. It's got a lot of the tropes of the, true story underdog sports movie stuff, but it's got a lot of charm. It's set in the 80s and it has a whole 80s vibe to it, like right down to the fonts on the credits, and the score sounds like something you would hear in like Mr. Mom.
Okay.
So it's got a lot of charming stuff to it. It's Hugh Jackman and Taron Egerton from Kingsman.
Yeah. Another movie from Matthew Vaughn.
Yes. So that's got a spot there. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Out of the Shadows. That American classic already in the making. That's going to have a spot there. You know who's being coy? Fox. But some reports say Independence Day Resurgence will have a spot. X-Men, Apocalypse, and Deadpool.
Independence Day, I'm going to say right here, I'll bet anything. No, I won't bet anything. But I'm pretty damn sure, because the original Independence Day is tied to that Super Bowl spot is still talked about, even though there was already a teaser in theaters. It's mostly because of the internet. The internet existed, but there was no YouTube, so most people hadn't seen the teaser.
Right.
That was their real, just the money shot of the White House blowing up. They've got to come back, and it might even reference that ad or something.
Yeah.
I think that they have to. 20 years ago, you were watching this game. It's something like that's going to happen. Yeah.
Now, pretty sure X-Men and Deadpool will be there. I don't think this is some break with protocol to say that the stars of those movies are doing press in San Francisco this weekend, which just so happens to be where the Super Bowl is held. In fact, Olivia Munn is appearing on Up at Noon next week. And so you can see her on there. She's up in the IGN SF office. Plays Psylocke, of course, in X-Men Apocalypse.
I think Deadpool, even if it doesn't have, Deadpool might not have a straight commercial because it's so about to
it
open.
opens up next week.
Right. Yeah. But there'll be some promotional tie-in, I'm guessing. X-Men, I think we're going to get a regular 30-second spot.
Now, here's the thing, like the X-Men Apocalypse trailer, it kind of was met with a whimper.
Yeah.
It didn't knock my socks off. It didn't turn me off of the movie, but it just sort of was, okay, it's just sort of there.
I agree.
Yeah,
that trailer came out, that was like the glut of Star Wars trailers, right?
Yeah, I think we had the second Bevis Dodge trailers, Terry would say.
And Civil War was a couple weeks before. It was a busy time, and that one, I do agree, was kind of There is a tradition of X-Men marketing not being great, although I do think, I thought Days of Future Past first teaser was great. Like very evocative, very emotional. The Apocalypse one, I was like,
The Deadpool stuff has been killing.
Deadpool has been so well marketed, and the fact that I was just saying it's like Deadpool opens a month apart from Batman vs Superman. Look, I know Batman vs Superman is going to dwarf Deadpool's opening, but I feel like the marketing for Deadpool has been so much better, and as far as grabbing people and being like, we are giving you what you want, and just
Batman, Superman, Warner Brothers doesn't have any spots. They haven't purchased any spots for the Super Bowl. Neither has Sony, so don't expect any Ghostbusters stuff.
That's the surprise to me, by the way. I thought this would be their Ghostbusters debut. I thought because
why do you think they're not?
I don't know.
Do they just not want a bunch of, and I hate to stereotype here, but a bunch of like guys who are half in the bag saying, I don't want to see no Ghostbusters with all women?
I don't think so, because the Super Bowl is
folks at home.
But the Super Bowl is the most viewed thing of TV program of the year. And so everyone's watching it, right? Like as much as I don't, I know everyone's watching it. People who don't watch football watch it. And so why wouldn't you? It does surprise me. And especially Fowler and I talked about this, because I'm so angry about some of the reaction to Ghostbusters that I now want it to be a giant hit, even if it's terrible. So I guess, I don't know, maybe because they just want to debut the full trailer rather than like a quick spot, because again, those commercials are so expensive. No one's going to debut like a
$4 to $5 million.
For like 30 seconds. So no one's going to debut their 2-minute trailer during the Super Bowl. Yeah, so I guess maybe they just want to make the splash on their own afterwards. I certainly hope it's not indicative that something's wrong with the movie. We we haven't heard anything about that.
They have been releasing images and character posters, so we'll see. Batman, Superman, Warner Brothers isn't buying a spot. However, it is possible that some sort of product placement spot for the movie will be in there.
Yeah.
We did see some Dr. Pepper kind of promotional stuff come out. Fandango's doing a thing for it. So
the quarterbacks for each team are going to win a Superman and a Batman cape, I believe.
That's right. Consider it mercy. Oh, wait, no. Now I'm switching around Batman and Superman.
Do you bleed?
Yeah. Yes, I do.
Yeah,
quite a bit.
Clearly.
Do you enjoy a refreshing Dr. Pepper?
Occasionally.
Well, we'll find out. Oh, Jungle Book will have a spot there.
Okay.
Not, from what I understand, not Alice in Wonderland 2 Through the Looking Glass.
But Jungle Book
might, but Jungle Book will.
See, that's a good example of like a movie that might not be on brand with Super Bowl, as in like tough guys, football.
But Dad,
but everyone watches. Yeah, families are watching, and so you just want to get your show out there. Yeah.
All right. Well, opening up this weekend, we have the Coen Brothers' Hail Caesar, which I quite enjoyed.
Looking forward to it.
Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, which Terry quite enjoyed. I wasn't able to make it to a screening, so I'll just have to go and see it. Actual pay hard-earned currency.
What?
Yeah, or just watch it in the plane, one of the two. Now, neither is tracking to do that well. Kung Fu Panda 3 will probably stay number one. Coen Brothers movies have never really had like open big.
No,
like, True Grit was their biggest one, I think.
Yeah. Like, and once in a while, I remember like Oh Brother, like being one of the ones that kind of broke out. And we're not saying it became like a giant $100 million blockbuster, but found a bigger audience.
Yeah.
But yeah, most of their movies are these quirky little movies. They get huge stars in them, but no one expects them to. This is not the blockbuster Channing Tatum, George Clooney summer movie. This is a Coen Brothers movie.
I liked it. It was quite charming. Although I will say, if you go in there expecting a lot of scenes with Jonah Hill, don't. He's in one scene.
Okay.
He's on the poster just to make you buy a ticket, but he's only got one scene.
I think Channing and George, though, they got it covered.
Channing's not in it too much, but he's a pivotal character.
Okay.
George is in it throughout, and Josh Brolin is the main character, though. So, Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, now, that's tracking around like 10 million.
Well, first of all, I think, full disclosure,
yes,
college friend of mine, Seth Graham-Smith, wrote the book, but did not write the movie. I think this movie took way too damn long to make. I mean, because that book was huge, but several years ago.
Yeah, it was like, what, 6, 7 years ago?
Yeah, and so I mean, this movie's been in development hell for a long time. Natalie Portman's one of the producers, but Once Upon a Time was going to star in it.
With David O. Russell.
Right. So it just seems like now it's coming out years after the book was hot and years after like people have the zombie exhaustion. And it's still, as much as the book was a hit, it's still going to be a weird sell to people who aren't familiar with the book because it's like got this funny, campy title.
Yeah.
It doesn't surprise me it's not tracking well just because there's a lot of elements. One of the main ones being, that it took way too long after at the time was like a big deal.
Well, it's not like Jane Austen movies are huge juggernauts either. They're usually art house films. And then also, frankly, I mean, horror comedies don't
that's a great point. Yeah, horror comedy is one of the hardest things to promote because it's a real niche thing, I
mean, Krampus is kind of an exception, but it was also, very low budget.
But it's more like you get more, Slither, a movie I love. There's like a horror comedy, it really break out. They are destined for cultdom, I'm glad to hear Terry and other people I've talked to like Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. I hope I like it, but it sounds like it's a cult movie in the making, and that's most often what happens when you blend that genre. Yeah.
Well, we want to know what you guys are going to go see this weekend. I do have, however, one reader email before we call it a day here and Keeping It Real.
All right.
I want to get your thoughts. It's DC movies related.
Okay.
And let's see, George writes in, there's the rumor that Darkseid is going to be, we saw the Omega symbol in BVS. With the rumors that Darkseid is the ultimate big bad in Beavis Dodge, do you think that DC Warner are potentially trying to get Darkseid, quote, out the door before Marvel and Thanos' grand reveal in order to reduce the, DC are just copying Marvel and Thanos chatter from audiences? Even though Darkseid predates Thanos by 3 years in the comics, but not anybody really knows that.
Now, is the rumor that Darkseid himself is a villain, a tangible villain in this movie?
There have been some rumors of that, but for all I know, it'll be like the end of Avengers and just the head turned to camera.
Look,
you know?
I pray that's not true simply because I already am so nervous about Batman vs. Superman, and one of the things that makes me nervous is how much they're trying to tackle in one movie and play catch up and introduce so many elements, so many heroes, and it looks like multiple villains. So it's fine to tease Darkseid and maybe even do your post-credit scene, but man, to try to somehow have Darkseid show up at the end of the movie, explain who he is, and have him fight Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman seems like a lot. So maybe they do want to, I think that it probably is correct that they want to kind of at least get Darkseid out there as a presence before Thanos is even though we've seen him, he still hasn't been the main villain.
Yeah.
But I doubt if he's actually just like a guy they're actually going to physically fight in this movie. Yeah. And it's funny because Apocalypse is going to beat them both as who's also sort of physically similar.
Yeah, somebody needs just a new outfit, okay, guys? Big rock heads and your brows, and you all kind of just look like the gray version of Ben Grimm too.
Yeah.
Anyhow, all right. Well, that'll do it for this week's show. We'll be back next. Oh, actually, we will not be back next week. I know, I'm such a bastard. We have a work event next week, so we're not going to be around next week. However, the UK guys will have a full review and spoiler cast for Deadpool, so keep your eyes out for that. Otherwise, follow us on Twitter at the Eric Goldman.
Correct.
Not like those loser impersonators.
No,
and at Jim Vavida. Mm-hmm. And send us your thoughts at keepingitreal@ign.com. And for all things movies, keep it here on IGN.